Matt Smith, mate, first and foremost, looking very ripe and excited in red. Talk to me about your new kit.
Yeah, I don't mind the red actually. It's Samurais do some good kit. Terry Sanders obviously knows his stuff. No, it's comfortable. Doesn't really hide the lockdown bulge around my midriff, but no, it's good.
Retirement bulge, you had that prior to lockdown. Let's not pretend otherwise. Smithy, lockdown's been an interesting one for you because you weren't in season when we went into lockdown as the academy, but there was still a lot going on, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. We unfortunately we missed an under-17s game, and that's where you kind of go into the under-16s block. So those last season's under-16s missed a bit of rugby. So hopefully over the next month or so we're going to catch that up.
Your training is commencing soon, am I right?
Yeah, so tomorrow, so today's Friday, so 1st of August, tomorrow, Saturday. And again, in the current climate, it's kind of been constantly changing. So now we have to change the location at last minute, but fingers crossed tomorrow we're going to get all 73 lads socially distanced in small groups of 5. So it's going to be a busy day, but really excited to kind of finally see the guys, not looking at them on a TV screen.
So do the academy commence in phase 1, or do they drop straight into phase 2 like the senior squad, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we're phase 1, so it's small groups of 5 plus a coach 6. No contact tomorrow. So hopefully the next few weeks we can get into slightly larger groups. But it's a good challenge for coaches as well, coming up with sessions to kind of get the most out of all 5.
You mentioned the TV screen. So what have you been doing with those kids?
So the start of July is when around we normally start a pre-season. So we try and keep as much normality as we can. So every Monday evening we've had Zoom calls, basically to kind of get to know them more than anything. But we've been dropping some good rugby details into them. So we've been doing a lot of work around their IDP, so their individual development plan. So that's a big thing for those guys. How are we going to make them better? What does better kind of look like? So those conversations have been really good over the last month. And it's nice to actually, like I say, finally, hopefully tomorrow, see them in person.
You said 73. That sounds like a very large squad.
Yep. Again, going back to the under 16s block last year. So normally we'd kind of cut that 16s block down to a smaller group, but we haven't had the opportunity to see them. So it's fair if we give them all a fair crack. So probably towards the end of the summer, that number will get brought down. But at the minute, that's kind of where we're at. So it's exciting, but hard work for everyone.
Your coaching team lost a member, Dav Melee. I mean, not that we're looking back, but worth acknowledging Dav, his contribution over the 12 months he was here.
Yeah, Dav was brilliant. Obviously, I knew Dav from playing with Dav. He kind of lived with me for about a month when he moved over.
Poor Dav.
Poor Dav, yeah. No, it's really tough. Dav was brilliant with the young guys, with the 9 and 10s, getting a different perspective of the game. Obviously, he played a lot of rugby in France, was invaluable to those young lads, and I know he still wants to kind of help out with the young lads in a kind of more informal basis. But he's more important, he's a great bloke as well. So.
Of those 73, was it? How many are returning title winners?
They're all testing my numbers now. I'd probably say around high 20s. So the guys that actually played in the final, there's probably around maybe 10. So last year we had the highest percentage of under 17s played in the under 18 league. Yeah. Does that make sense to you last year?
Yes.
So we're quite fortunate. So we're in quite a strong position kind of moving forward into Academy League this year, because and especially against Wasps. So we'd already won the league, so it was a great opportunity for those last season under 17s, this season's under 18s to get some Academy League experience. So hopefully that stands in good stead.
Have you guys had any confirmation or discussions around what the league might look like? Is there any conversation about it being postponed, or are you lucky that it starts a little bit later anyway?
They're ongoing.
Yeah.
In our mind, the chances are it might get pushed back to January, but December to January, because we're still unsure around what the school programme looked like from September to December. So we're all pretty confident there will be an Academy League. Whether it looks the same format as last year is kind of still up in the air.
I want to ask you about the school program, because we spoke to Wilksy, as you were saying, last season, but this season, or whatever it was, early this year, we'll say that, about the Good to Great program. what is that for those that don't know, firstly?
Yeah, so basically there are certain schools where we have a link and an agreement with. So we go into the schools, help them with coaching. They flip it over. They give us footage of their games as well. So it's a two-way relationship. So they help us out as much as they can. We help them out as much as we can and stuff like that. Those schools, they've generally got the better rugby coaching as well. It's a really good relationship, and I think going forward into the school term in September, I think we'll be leaning on each other a lot more. Again, we don't know what school rugby is going to look like, so it's a good way to kind of strengthen the relationships.
You talk about the school coaching. Your old man was involved in a school coaching program for years. I'm more interested to know how much influence he has over your coaching now.
It's a good question. Honest. That's the first time anyone's ever asked me. Yeah, as a player, you always get that. I'd say he has more influence over me in my coaching than he did as a player. Because, like I said,
well, he was a back rower.
Yeah, he didn't.
And you're a centre. What's he going to tell you?
Run around, kind of trying to
knock people's heads off. I can say it. You can't.
No, he was a school coach from when he was 22, 23. So that's probably 40 years of coaching experience he's had. Although coaching is very different to what it did back then. But even someone to kind of bounce ideas off. I found coaching it is tough. There are some days where you're like, wow, this is tough, and as a player you're sheltered from that, which is what you should be. But no, he's a great kind of sounding board, really. Yeah.
Is there a technical conversation you have where you're literally going to him and going, look, I can't work out how to improve this at the ruck or approaching the ruck? Or
it's not so much technical. No. It's probably more around the kind of delivery, kind of maximising sessions. What has worked for him, what didn't work, why it didn't work, all those kind of conversations, especially because he's involved with school rugby, which is similar age group to what I'm involved with here, kind of picking what trends he's seeing in the schoolboy game, all those kind of conversations that quite lucky to have them, really.
Well, I mean, people talk about Martin Johnson's changing room speeches, Dino's changing room speeches, Cocker's changing room speeches, but everyone says the greatest changing room speeches came from Dosser Smith. So does he have conversations with you about how you've got to rev them up, especially when it might be Saints this weekend? Or
no, I don't think so, because I've been brought up on that, so that's probably one of my skills as well. I'd like to think I can motivate the players enough to perform. That's the kind of feedback I got from the playing group as well. But again, it's kind of where you pitch it. You're not at the same. The first team level is not the same at the 18. There's not as much.
A few less expletives.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously with the guys now, they're different generations.
Yeah.
Generation Z is very different to, well, I'm millennial. So we kind of, it's.
Jeez, you're clinging on there, mate. You're just a millennial.
It's kind of how you maximise them and kind of motivate that generation to other generations, which again is interesting.
There was a quote. Admittedly, I'm stealing from Australia here, so I'm sorry. But Wayne Bennett, the rugby league coach, had a quote earlier this week about a young kid who's in a battle for money, and said that the current young kids coming through mature much earlier mentally, but not so much physically. So you've got to find a way to balance that, because they think they're ready when they're not. Yeah. Do you find that? Without knocking the kids, it's not that they're arrogant, but actually they might think they're physically ready to take on Dan Cole or a player like that.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
And I again, going back to generations, I think technology, social media has kind of played into that as well. So they watch Instagram and that's someone's highlights reel. They're not seeing all the hard work that's gone in behind that.
Yeah.
But it's pretty obvious when some guys kind of come up, get chucked in against Dan Cole, they're not ready.
No.
But in a way, that's a good thing, because then that'll kind of give them encouragement to get better. But it's.
So how do you keep a lid on that? Without giving away secrets?
What, as in kind of...
How do you, if I'm player X and I come to you and I go, mate, I should be already playing A-League and I think they should be picking me for the Prem Cup, but I've played 2 academy games and I'm good enough and I might be mentally ready, but you know full well that I've got a couple of years of hard yards in me and I've got to go off and have a crack in the champ or Nat 1.
What I find, again, having that empathy with them, give examples of people that got pushed too hard too soon.
Yep.
And you don't want to be that. You need to kind of earn your stripes first. You kind of get chucked into the deep end, that might be it. Whereas if you work hard, can put the hard yards in, as coaches, that's our experience, that's our skill. We like to think we know when you're ready. But it's difficult conversations to have.
So do you think this period's helped you in that sense because you're not doing the physical work with them? You've probably had more time to focus on getting to know the person, getting to know the individual.
Yeah, definitely. That's the one, probably my biggest learning from last year as a coach. By far, you have to get to know as an individual. Everyone is different. There's 73 16, 17-year-olds will meet tomorrow. One size is not fit all, and I think the more you can kind of tap into that off-field stuff, it helps on the field as well. Even those soft conversations, mum, dad's names, what A-levels you're doing, what school you're at, etc., etc. Again, you kind of that builds the relationship and that trust as well. So when I say run through the brick wall, they're probably more likely to do it because we've got that trust there.
You mentioned mum and dad. Do you ever have the parent maybe thinks they're a little bit ready or a little bit further on than they might be in their own progress?
Yeah, definitely. Again, I'm lucky I've got two boys, and meetings around here, it's one of the big things I've learned from Steve is, would you want to be coached? Would your son want to be coached by you? And I'd like to think my boys would. They wouldn't listen to me because they listen to me at home. But
no, of course not.
I'd like to think the way I coach the academy, my boys would appreciate that. So.
You mentioned Steve. You have been involved in training with the senior squad, so you effectively got the three roles at the moment of dad, academy head coach, and assistant coach, so to speak.
Husband as well. Don't forget that one.
Yeah, well, I'll let your wife tell me if you're a good husband. That's up to her, not up to you, mate. Assistant coach, effectively, you've been basically helping out, haven't you? In a couple of different ways. You were a pseudo Rod Taylor for a little while. It's also Rob, but it's Rod if you ask him. How's that experience been? What have you taken?
Oh, how long have you got? It's been pretty unbelievable. I think the first week in, we were sat in a coaches meeting. You've got Steve, you've got Aled, both involved in the World Cup final, like kind of talking to each other about, I won't get too much into what they're saying, but I was like, this is unbelievable. Like, they're two of the best teams in the world talking about ideas, what worked, what didn't work. It's been a really kind of steep learning experience, but I've learned a huge amount. Kind of picking their brains because they're from different environments. Rob, or Rod if you want to call him Rod as well, coming from different environments as well, just kind of a fresh thinking on the game, for me as a young coach, has been invaluable. So
for fans watching, because you're not that long retired, what is it now, 18 months or so long, or might be a bit long. You look awful. Let's clear that up. But if you were a player in this group, we talked about if your son would want to be coached by you. If you were a player in this group, how would you feel, or how have you felt? Maybe the players have felt in this environment currently.
I think they're just excited. It's it's refreshing. It's exciting. A totally different take on it. And those guys come with that instant respect as well. So if these players are going to listen, they're going to buy into the really kind of key, simple messages as well that are coming through. But I think it's, and I'm sure you get told this a lot, but it really is kind of exciting time. And for me to kind of look in and kind of take as much knowledge out of that for the academy as well is hugely invaluable. Everyone
seems to say a couple of key words, which are, clarity, standards are really obvious and high, and then there's this constant reference to just tough and hard work. Yeah, they sessions you wouldn't want to be involved in as a player now, looking back. And that's probably a positive.
Yeah, look, at the end of the session, you look at the boys and they've worked hard. Like, I haven't seen them train this hard probably ever. They're looking fit, they're healthy, but it's at the end of it, they've still got a smile on their face.
Yeah,
and that's the skill of Steve and his coaching team. That's the way they're getting the messages across. And it's simple messages, but it's so exciting, and I can't wait to watch the boys play in that first game.
As a final point, you're Tigers through and through, and you love this place. There's been a lot of conversations over recent years about a need for an outside influence, someone to come in with a bit of a, I guess, less baggage, if you will, not to be controversial. Steve and Aled, are they and Rob to a point, but when you look at Steve in particular, is he that guy that you say comes in with the respect of what Tigers is about and knows the history and knows what this place is built on, but has he brought that kind of new look, new idea to what needed to change?
Yeah, I think so. And obviously Steve, he respects where Leicester's come from. He talks a lot about we need to take the best bits of the past, kind of bring it into the future, which again, as a player, that would excite me, because Leicester is Leicester. You have to connect to the past. You can't forget what's happened, because it's one of the most successful club sides in the world. So if you ignore that, that's just an elephant in the room. But I think Steve's very clever in the way he picks the best bits out. But it is a fresh start, and everything he's saying now is kind of looking forward with like I say, with the positives of the past.
Thank you.
Thank you.